Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video. I am just gonna sit here and tell you about every single book that I've read this year so far. So I know a lot of people do a monthly wrap up and they'll tell you everything they read in the month. However, I don't read as many books as some people do. Some people read this many books in 1 month. I figured I would just divide the year into quarters and do a quarterly review every 3 months with you. Let me know what you think about that, or if you do prefer monthly, even if there's only 5 or 6 books within the month. Do you prefer that, being more up to date, or is quarterly, just seeing everything that I've read for 3 months, better? Let me know what you think. But for this first quarter of the year, these are the 20-ish books. I'm not sure on the final number. I think it's 20. I haven't even counted. So we're gonna go in order from what I read in the beginning of January all the way till now. Way up here, you can't even see the top of my stack, but up here at the top of my stack, this is the first book I read this year, which I didn't even realize. At least on my Goodreads and Fable, this is logged as the first book I read this year. I might have finished it end of December or started December, finished January. Kind of irrelevant, doesn't matter. We're still gonna talk about it. This is the 3rd book in the Winter Night trilogy, The Winter of the Witch. This cover is one of my favorite covers ever. This whole trilogy has the most stunning covers. I annotated quite a bit of it. I loved this book. Wait, let me whip out Fable because I need to give you all my ratings. I rated this 4.75, and I can't really say much about what it's about because it is the 3rd book in a trilogy, but this trilogy follows our main character, Vasilisa, from the time when she's a young girl until she's, I don't even know how old she ends up at the end. Teenager, 20s, around there. My typical genre is dark romance, romantasy, fantasy. This is more of a fairy tale folklore kind of energy. There's no spice or anything, very minimal romance plot. It's more just following our main character and her growth. This entire trilogy is very atmospheric for winter, so I highly recommend reading it in the cold winter months. We're in 14th century Moscow, so that's where it takes place, in Russia. It has a little bit of a fantasy kind of element because we deal with Russian folklore. It's a really, really good story, and if you want to kind of change it up from typical romantasy, I think this is a perfect book to read. Or if you want something that has no spice but really, really good plot, amazing writing, I highly recommend this series, especially in the winter. Then we changed it up completely from Russian folklore and we went right into dark romance. I finally started the Legacy of God series. This is God of Malice. It's the 1st book in the series. We're following Killian and Glyndon. This is quite spicy, quite dark. I love our kind of found family group of characters. I'm not gonna lie, Killian is not my favorite. He's definitely not on my book boyfriend list. He is a literal psychopath, wants to unalive people. He's just a little bit much for me. There's a little bit of a mystery plot that goes on in the background of this, which I really enjoyed, but we're basically just following Glyndon King, Killian Carson, how they meet, how they kind of get to know each other. I rated this 3.75. There's not really much else to say for the plot besides there's kind of a mystery plot and we're just following these 2 characters. That's really it. It's kind of an academic school setting. The first few chapters of this are insane. Just kind of push through those. They're a lot. The next book I don't actually have. It is a Dramini fanfic and I read it on my Kindle, and that is Secrets and Masks. This book, this was a 6-star. Secrets and Masks is a Dramini fanfic. Hermione's our main character. I read Manacled last year or the year before. 6 stars, absolutely obsessed. I adore both of these fanfics. They altered my brain chemistry. I am a diehard Dramini girl. It's 9 years after the Battle of Hogwarts, so after the end of the last movie, but Voldemort wasn't defeated. So he still exists. The war's been going on for 9 years. We're in Hermione's POV, and Hermione is now the most lethal badass soldier who is a part of the Order. Basically the Order of the Phoenix versus Voldemort and all his followers, and Hermione is just this killing machine. She ends up being captured by Voldemort's followers and ends up in Malfoy Manor. I'm just gonna leave it at that because that's really the only description you need. It is so good. I highly recommend Hermione fanfic, especially if you were a Harry Potter girl growing up. It is on another level. I then read Crooked Kingdom. I did listen to some of this on audio. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. I don't want to say too much about this one because it's the second book after the first one, but in Six of Crows, we're following this group of people who go on a heist, and the whole book's basically a heist. Both of these are kind of heisty kind of books. There's always something happening in both of these books. There's so much going on at all times. There's a lot of planning and plotting and scheming and adventure and heists. This is YA, so not my usual genre. I did end up rating this 3.75. I do find this world kind of hard to understand if you haven't watched Shadow and Bone on Netflix. I highly recommend watching Shadow and Bone first, because once you watch the show, it introduces you to all of the magic system, because the magic system can be a little bit confusing. We have Grisha, we have people who have different magical powers. I recommend watching the show first. The characters from Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom are my favorite characters in Shadow and Bone in the show. I love those characters. That's kind of why I wanted to read this duology, was after watching that show. I've never actually read the original Shadow and Bone trilogy. I did like this. It's good for a YA. It's good if you like kind of heisty type books, but wasn't one of my favorites, and I don't think it'll stick with me. I mean, these characters will live in my brain rent free forever. They're very, very memorable characters and they go through so much, but still 3.75 for me. I found this one a little bit slower than the first one too. Okay, then Onyx Storm came out. Now, I have a whole reading vlog dedicated to this. Reflecting back on it now, and now that this book's been out for a while, I kind of regret my rating. I rated it 4 stars, and I think that's way too high, to be honest. This trilogy is just, well, I guess it's not a trilogy, there's gonna be more books, but this series, I fear, is slightly overhyped on the internet, and I think I was just falling into the hype of how everyone was so excited that it was coming out. It was really fun that we all kind of read it together. It was a really fun moment in time, but I don't think this deserves a 4 star now that I'm thinking about it. I'm just gonna leave it for now on my Goodreads and Fable. I don't like care enough to go back and change it, but now that I think about it, this is more of a 3.5 maybe. I liked Fourth Wing. I did really like Fourth Wing. I love the concept. I love Basgiath as being a school. If you don't know what Fourth Wing is about, we're following Violet Sorrengail as she enrolls in Basgiath War College. It's basically a dragon riding school. So there's a bunch of dragons. The students who are cadets, they bond with dragons. My favorite part of Fourth Wing in this entire series is the dragons. I don't think the writing is particularly amazing. I don't really buy into the love story, which is so crazy because so many people love Xaden and love Violet and Xaden together. I don't buy it for some reason. I just don't believe it, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. Besides the point, Onyx Storm, the 3rd book in the Empyrean series. If you love dragons, I do recommend reading this. I love dragons. That is the reason I like this series. If there were no dragons, I would hate this series. I can't tell you anything about this specific 3rd book, so hopefully my kind of description of what this series / what Fourth Wing is about helps, but yeah, I rated it a 4, technically more of a 3.5 or even 3, I would say. I then started the Dark Verse series. This is a mafia romance, mafia dark romance, and I was introduced to Tristan Kane, and I have never looked back. I love Tristan Kane. He says maybe 3 words in this whole book. He does not speak. He is a very quiet man. He speaks with his eyes. His eye contact, I can feel it through the pages. He literally doesn't exist, but I can feel his eye contact. This is The Predator by Rune X. I rated this 4.25. I loved this book. I thought it was so good. I started transferring my annotations from my Kindle and then I just stopped caring. But just know, I did annotate quite a bit of this on my Kindle. We're following Marana Vitalio and Tristan Kane, and they're both on opposing sides of the mafia. So Marana's father is a mafia boss, and then Tristan is a part of the Tenebrae outfit, I believe it's called, and that's the other mafia families. They're on opposing sides. Marana is a very high-tech computer genius, which I love. I think that's so cool to see in a female character, and she basically creates these codes, these computer codes, and someone steals the codes. So we're not sure what the codes are, except that they're very dangerous, and we're just kind of following the two of them. So they definitely start as enemies, big enemies to lover's arc in this. He's so protective, he's so touch her and die. And then I read God of Pain, which this is one of my unpopular opinions because most people like God of Malice more, but so far, God of Pain is my favorite in this series. I have a soft spot for Creighton King and Annika. What's her last name? Volkov? Yeah, Annika Volkov. Oh, I love them. I just love this whole series. I love an interconnected series. So we get little hints of these characters in God of Malice, and then these characters will carry on throughout the rest of the Legacy of God series, and I love that. I love seeing little hints of characters. It makes you really excited to get to their book, and I was super excited for Creighton and Annika's book, and it did not disappoint. I rated this 4.5, which is super good, especially for a dark romance. I cried in this. I don't think I've ever cried in a dark romance before, but I cried. I have a whole reading vlog reading this. It's kind of enemies to lovers. Like, I wouldn't really call them enemies, but they're not friends. Annika starts off just trying to break through and get through to Creighton. He's so quiet. He doesn't let anyone in. He has a lot of trauma. He's so baby girl. Like, I just want to protect him. He's so quiet around everyone, but then he's a filthy mouth. The song Scream My Name by Thomas La Rosa reminds me of Creighton King every single time I hear it. There's not much of a plot to the Legacy of God series. You're more focused just on the characters and their relationship and their bond. We have another dark romance next. I have a few dark romances here in a row because I did a reading dark romance for a week video. So if you want to see me read these and get my thoughts and opinions spoiler free, check that out. But I then read Her Soul to Take. This is the first book in the Souls trilogy. I honestly loved this. This is so Damon Salvatore coded and Vampire Diaries vibes. If you love Damon, if you've always been a Damon girly, I'm telling you, Souls trilogy. I love the concept of this book. The main thing I don't like about this book is that our main character's name is Leon, because there's something about that name that just doesn't scream sexy demon to me, because yes, he is a demon. Leon is a demon, and he's our main male character. We're following Leon and Ray. Ray's actually a YouTuber, and she hunts supernatural things. She creates supernatural content, like doing summonings and ghost tracking, that type of thing. And she accidentally summons a demon who is Leon, our main male character. She accidentally summons him. And there's this whole other kind of mystery plot in the back end that I believe is gonna carry on into the next books. I have not continued this series yet, but it does end on kind of a cliffhanger. It's not wrapped up, so I think it will continue. Just know that Ray summons a demon and dark romance ensues. I gave this 4 stars. I did find it a little bit slow at the beginning, and I wasn't completely sold on the couple, but the more I read it, I was laughing out loud at the comments that Leon would make, because he's just so Damon Salvatore. Everything he says is so dry. He says, big bad demon, and Damon literally in Vampire Diaries goes, the big bad vampire. They are the same. I was reading it in Damon's voice. Damon girls who like dark romance, this is for you. The third and final dark romance that I read in that video is Twisted by Emily McIntyre. This is part of the Never After series. It is not even interconnected, actually. You don't even need to read every single book in the series. They're completely different characters. You don't even get glimpses of the characters in other books, so they're not interconnected. These are more standalones, but it's still called the Never After series because they all follow the same concept, and that is that each book is a fractured fairy tale. So in Twisted, it's kind of very loosely based on Aladdin, and then some of the other books, for example, Scarred is loosely based on The Lion King. She has a new one out called Hexed that I haven't read yet, and that one is Little Mermaid. So they're just kind of very loosely based fractured fairy tales where the villain gets the girl. So in this book, we're following Yasmin Karam, and her father is one of the richest men in the world. He has $1 million or $1 billion diamond and jewel company. Her father ends up getting sick, and his dying wish is to see Yasmin married to a man who can take over his business because he doesn't trust her to do it. We have a marriage of convenience kind of situation here with Julian Ferrasi, who is her father's right-hand man. The only issue is Yasmin is already in love with a servant and her father doesn't know it yet. So we have this kind of like little love triangle situation going on. There is age gap in this. I honestly didn't really love this one. I think Scarred has been my favorite so far in this series. I rated this a 2.75. I found it rather slow and I didn't enjoy the age gap, especially because he knew her when she was was younger. I just don't like that. I don't like when there's an age gap and the guy knew her when she was underage. There's just something about that that rubs me the wrong way. I didn't love this one as much. It just wasn't for me. I found it predictable. I then continued on with the Darkverse series and I read The Reaper. This is again in Marana and Tristan's POV, so we haven't switched characters yet. The next book in the series does switch to some different characters, so I wrapped up Marana and Tristan's kind of main POV storyline. I didn't like this one as much. I rated this one 3 stars. I found it a lot slower and less engaging than the first book. I still really liked this. I will continue the series for sure. This kind of wrapped up a lot of questions that we were left with after the first book. Again, I can't really say too much what this is about without ruining anything in the plot. Now we have Metal Slinger, one of my absolute favorite books that I've read this year. I gave this an immediate 5 stars, and I gave it 5 stars before the plot twist at the end. So this book went viral because of the plot twist. There's a huge plot twist at the end. It is so amazing and so well written, but I wanted to give this 5 stars before I even got to the plot twist because it is genius. I loved this story, this world. It was so unique. If you're looking to change up your typical kind of romantasy storyline, definitely check this one out. Our main character in this book is Bryn, and she is part of the Alaha people. So we have Alaha people and Kenta people. The Alaha people were banished by the Kenta people, and they live on the water. So it was kind of hard for me to picture, and I still can't fully imagine it, but there's basically trees growing out of the water, and it's kind of this swampy ocean area. Like they live in the middle of the ocean, and they've never actually been on real land. They just kind of live in the trees over the water. That's kind of how I'm picturing it, but that's how the Alaha people live. That's how Bryn has lived. She's never set foot on land. So her whole life has been leading up to this market day that they have with the Kenta people. So the Kenta people host this market where the Alaha can come to land for this one day and buy goods and trade and be on land for once. So we get to market day. The book starts at market day when Bryn is going to the land, and something kind of crazy happens on land, and that starts a spiral of events that happen throughout the rest of the book. So we have kind of enemies to lovers. Actually, yeah, I would say enemies to lovers. We have a quest, so they're kind of following this quest timeline. It's really good. I love the kind of change of scenery that we get a lot of the time. I just love the concept of this. I highly recommend it. When I was reading this, I just kept looking forward to the next time I could pick it up because I was so invested in it, and I cannot wait for the second book to come out. I think it comes out this year. I really hope it does. Then I read Half a Soul. I actually ended up listening to probably 70% of this on audio, and that is the only reason I didn't DNF it. I ended up giving this 2 stars. This simply was not for me. This is just not my genre of book. It was kind of a cheeky little fairy tale, and I like my books to have a little bit more trauma and darkness and be a little bit more adult. This felt very YA. It felt very young. It almost felt like just a young fairy tale kind of vibe. It's kind of written in a old English kind of way as well. I think if I was just reading it physically, I would have DNF'd it, but at about 30%, I switched to audio, and I had a long drive ahead of me, so I literally listened to the whole book during the drive, and that was kind of the only reason I finished it. So if you have similar book taste to me, I would probably not recommend this one. It's just not for me. The writing was good. I can see why other people like it. We're following Theodora Eddings, who goes by Dora, and she was cursed by a fairy when she was younger, so she only has half a soul, meaning she can't feel things like a normal person. She doesn't really have emotions. She can't really fall in love or feel any sort of emotion. There's little kind of trickles of emotion that she has, but nothing makes her feel strongly. So it was a very interesting concept. I really like the concept. That's why I wanted to pick it up. I thought it was such a cool idea. There was almost a mystery aspect to this as well, which I did actually really enjoy. I was curious to see what would happen, but we are just kind of following Dora, and she meets the Lord Sorcier, whose name is Elias, which I love the name Elias. Every time they said his name, I really liked it. He ends up wanting to kind of help Dora because he's very intrigued by her whole half a soul issue here. Now we have some thrillers. I do have some back-to-back thrillers here because I did film another read for a week with me video, and this time I did thrillers instead of dark romance. So first in that video, I read The Housemaid and was thoroughly disappointed. So the video didn't start off great. I rated this a 2.5, and I said if you have read Verity, basically don't read this because it seems like a copy paste, kind of the exact same story. I found this rather predictable. I found it a little bit slow to get into. What is the main character's name? Millie? It's a thriller. I can't really explain too much of it. I don't want to ruin it. Just know that we're following Millie, the housemaid, and she is a live-in housemaid with this couple who has a young daughter, and everything is not as it seems. This one hurts. This hurts. Then I read That's Not My Name by Megan Lawley, and this is my favorite thriller book that I've ever read. I gave this 5 stars. It had me sobbing. I was bawling my eyes out. The plot twist got me. The whole book, I was so engaged, and a few of you guys have said that you've read it now after seeing me read it, and you said it absolutely got you as well. So I highly recommend this. It's a nice short read. It's so gripping. It's so well written. My camera overheated. I don't know what I was saying. I think I was saying what this is about. A girl wakes up on the side of the road. She's a teenager and she has no memories. She can't even remember her own name. She doesn't know where she's from. She doesn't know how she got there. She literally remembers nothing. And then this man shows up at the police station and he is claiming to be her father. He has her birth certificate. He has her school ID. He has photos of her all over his phone. So it makes sense that this is her father. So the police eventually let her go home with him. And that's one end of the story. And then we're also following Drew. So this is the other POV in the story. The first POV is the girl waking up not knowing who she is. We're in her POV, and then we're also in Drew's POV. And Drew has a missing girlfriend. So his girlfriend, same age, same look as this girl, is missing as well. So we're following him trying to find her. So the whole story is kind of like we're wanting these characters to get back together. This was so good. I loved the different POVs and the two kind of stories we were following, the different characters. It was so well written. It was so gripping. I highly recommend this as a thriller read. This one's painful. This is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This book hurts because it's so real. It makes you really hate men. True crime girlies, you'll probably love this. I'm just personally not a true crime person. It hits too close to home. It's too real, and I don't like bad things happening to women. I just don't like it, and this whole book is bad things happening to women. So we are following two sisters in this book. What are their names? Claire and Lydia. And it's been 20 years since they've spoken to each other. 20 years ago, their oldest sister was kidnapped. She was never found. So that's a big open-ended mystery that we're following in this book. Claire, one of the sisters, her husband ends up getting murdered at the beginning of the book. This is on the back of the book, don't worry. So we're kind of trying to follow these two mysteries and figure out, are they connected? Are they not connected? What happened to Julia, who's their sister who went missing when she was a teenager? What happened to Julia? Why was Claire's husband murdered? It has a very mysterious kind of atmosphere to it. I would say it's more mystery than thrilling. I mean, it does have thrilling aspects, especially near the end, but it's more mysterious and kind of, we just have a lot of questions and want to know where it's going. This is very hard to read. A lot of things are really hard to digest. I felt sick to my stomach reading this. I had to put it down and stare at a wall multiple times while I was reading it. It was so well written though. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It would have been higher because it was a really good story, but it just hurt too bad. For enjoyment purposes, I could only give it a 3. And I think it also hit really hard because I read it in 2 days, whereas if you space it out, maybe it wouldn't be as traumatizing, but this definitely left a pit in my stomach. So read your trigger warnings, but I do still think it was a really good story. The final thriller is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is my first Riley Sager book and it will not be my last. I do really like his writing. I found it very gripping. I read this in 1 sitting. I was enjoying it a lot until we got to the end. I'll get to that in a second. In this book, we are following, I never remember characters' names. Our main character in this book is a girl named Kit McDeer, and she is going to live in this house as a stay-in kind of caretaker for this woman named Lenora Hope. And Lenora was accused of murdering her entire family when she was 17 or something like that. Yeah, 17. So everybody thinks Lenora did it. All the evidence makes it look like Lenora did it. Lenora has never really talked about it. All she said was she's not guilty, and they didn't have enough evidence to lock her up or put her away. So everyone thinks thinks it was her. She says it wasn't her, and she doesn't really talk about it at all. So she still lives in this same house that the killings happened, and Kit goes to live in this house to take care of her. Lenora has suffered multiple strokes and can't talk or move anymore. She's wheelchair bound, so she needs a lot of help, which is why Kit goes to take care of her. So we're just kind of following that storyline, trying to figure out, did Lenora actually kill her entire family? If she did, why did she do it? If she didn't do it, who did it? And that's kind of the whole story that we're following here. Now, I was really liking this throughout. It was really good throughout the book. I was loving it until we got to the end, and there was an unnecessary amount of plot twists. There was way too many, to the point where it completely pulled me right out of the story, and I was just getting upset with how many plot twists, and it's almost like he just tried to make it all twisty and confusing and plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. I was getting whiplash at the end, and it just made it so unbelievable and unrealistic that I just ended up hating the end. Because I didn't like the end, I gave it a 3.5, but I would say kind of throughout the book, I was leaning more towards a 4 or 3.75, but just the end absolutely took me out of it and almost made the whole book not even worth it to me. So definitely not my favorite thriller. Thinking about it more, I could probably even give it a 3, because I would recommend Pretty Girls over this one. It's just, Pretty Girls was really traumatizing. Now we have my next 5-star of the year, which is the Book of Azrael. I read this in a YouTube video along with the next 2 books as well, and they are the first book in series. I was testing out some series to see which one I wanted to continue. Spoiler alert, this one won. This series has me in a chokehold. I originally rated this 4.5. Then I couldn't stop thinking about it and gave it 4.75. And now finally I'm just so utterly obsessed with it, and I cannot stop thinking about this book and the next one, which I'm reading right now. So I ended up giving it a 5. I was so all over the place with this, but there's just no world in which this is not 5 stars. It is so good. This is one of my new god tier romantasy series. The FMC, like the characters feel so real in this. I absolutely love the characters that we're following. So we are following Diana, who is our main girl character in this, and she is an Igmorthan. Bear with me, the world building does take a little bit to get into here, but we have Igmorthans on one side, and they have the reputation of being evil monsters. And then on the other side, we have the gods and the celestials. So gods kind of rule over the celestials, and these are our 2 sides, the Igmorthans and the gods and celestials. Diana is a Igmorthan, and she is a badass. Dare I say she's my favorite female character ever? I just love her. Her humor, her sassiness. She's such a bad bitch. She's so powerful. I absolutely love her. Diana is what I aspire to be. She is so cool, and she's so flirty. Oh my gosh, I just love her so much. And she's not like a weak little human. I hate when there's weak little whiny baby little humans in these fantasy books. Give me a badass FMC. And then our main male character is Samkael, and he is a god. He's actually the king of the gods. They start as enemies, of course. They're on complete opposite sides of this war that's been going on forever. They end up teaming up to find the Book of Azrael, and that is the whole concept of this book, is them kind of going on these quests to find the Book of Azrael. This had me sat. I am so obsessed. I'm reading book 2 right now. It is looking like a 5-star as well. The next book I read in that video is Addicted to You. So I finally started the Addicted series. This is a big one. In this book, we're following Lily and Lo. Lily is addicted to sex and Lo is addicted to alcohol. This entire book is about their addictions. I would say their addictions are the main character of this book. That is the entire plot. Not much happens besides us kind of getting to know the characters, but honestly, it makes so much sense because this is a 10-book series. There's a lot more to come, and this is pretty short, so it's really an intro book. I found it a little bit slow at points, and like I said, not much plot. It was just about their addictions and how addicted they were to things. It was like this book was just trying to prove to us how serious their addictions are, and they are very serious. I ended up giving it a 2.75 just because I felt like it was slow. However, it's not in a bad way, and I do really want to continue this series. In fact, I did already buy the second book, and I downloaded the entire series onto my Kindle. So I'm very intrigued. I do think about these characters and I want to know where it goes. This just specific book I found a little bit slow and lacking a little bit of plot, but I'm not mad about it because it needed it did what it needed to do. It just wasn't my favorite, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Probably my biggest disappointment of this year so far is City of Gods and Monsters. This is the first book in the House of Devils series. I so badly wanted to love this. I thought I was gonna be obsessed with this because a lot of people who like the Book of Azrael and who have similar book tastes to me like this book. However, this reminded me very loosely of Quicksilver. And if you guys watched my videos last year, you know that I was not a fan of Quicksilver at all because our main character, Cyrus, the human girl in it, absolutely drove me insane. And I got the same vibes from Loren in this book. She's the main girl character. She's a human. There's something about these human characters that just, they're so whiny and annoying and bratty, and I just can't get behind it. I just don't buy the love story when the main female character is so bitchy and rude and then the guy is suddenly falling all over her. I'm like, for what? What are you seeing in her? I just don't understand. So I just didn't buy the love story in this. I also thought the world building a little bit confusing, but it was still a really good plot, really good storyline. However, the end kind of lost me a little bit too because I found it really just unbelievable. It was kind of, they were just throwing these, oh, and here's this random thing that suddenly fixes everything. And it's like, what? How? What do you mean? It's kind of like in fantasy books when suddenly this new magic thing is possible and it fixes all their problems. I just didn't buy it. I didn't believe it. I didn't feel a connection to these characters. I ended up giving it a 3-star because I thought it was really well written. It's just, I didn't love the characters. I was not drawn to them and I was not super invested in the plot. And I honestly don't even really want to continue this series unless you guys tell me that it gets better. Should I continue? Please let me know. I have just finished one more book today, actually. I don't have the physical copy yet. I did end up ordering it because I'm actually obsessed with this book, and that is For the Fans by Nyla K. Oh my God. I rated this 4.75. This is the spiciest book I've ever read. We are following Kyron and Avi, who are stepbrothers. So we have a stepbrothers MM romance situation happening here. Kyron is a quarterback. He's the sporty, popular guy. Avi is the artsy, quirky, but sexy, little like kind of nerdy guy. And somehow they end up creating OnlyFans content together, and that's why it's called For the Fans. It is so good. I feel like these are real people. I genuinely felt like I was reading about real humans. These are real people to me. I felt so connected to the characters, and I love an MM romance where it's kind of a figuring out your sexuality book. I'm obsessed with storylines like that. I really ate this up and I gave it a 4.75. It would have been a 5. However, it did get a little bit too cheesy for me at the end, and I found I was kind of like, oh, like kind of meh. You know, when something's a little bit cheesy and you're just kind of rolling your eyes. Yeah, it was a little bit too cheesy at the end for me, and the term baby was just used too many times that it completely lost its meaning for me. It would have been a 5-star without those because I absolutely loved the plot. I read this book so slow because I didn't want it to be over. I just kept dragging it out. This was my Kindle before bed read. I'm obsessed with these characters. I actually miss them. I physically miss them, and I finished this book this morning. I don't even know what to do with myself. I want to keep reading about them. Like, I find I'm sitting here thinking like, I hope they're happy in their life right now as if they're real. Okay, you can't even see the top and it's leaning, so I'm just gonna leave that there. Hey, hi, before you go, quickly, 2 things. Firstly, I finished another book. As you can tell from the annotations, utterly obsessed with this series. I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely ate this up. It was long, but worth every single page. The storyline, the characters, I'm obsessed with the series, this book, everything. So I just needed to add that in because I did finish another book. It is still March. The last thing is I need you guys to do me a favor. I need you to comment below your favorite book ever. If you can't pick one, it's okay, you can pick a few. I want to film a reading my subscribers' favorite books for a week video, so I need to know all of your favorite books. So please comment them below and I will pick a few to read in my next video. Here are all the books that I've read this year so far, and thank you so much for supporting my book content. It is literally the most fun I've ever had on the internet, I think. So Yeah. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And I also post a lot more book stuff on TikTok versus Instagram. Instagram's more fitnessy lifestyle, whereas TikTok, I post a lot more of my book stuff. So if you want to see more book content, head over to TikTok. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.